Hello everyone. I hope all of you are doing great. And you must have gone through the literature that we have discussed in our previous class, as well as the recording that was uploaded on the YouTube channel for your own convenience and a record. What we are going to do today. So before we launch forward into the contents that we are going to cover today, let me briefly summarize what we have already done in our last session. In our last session, we looked into the characteristics of successful entrepreneurs. We have explored the effectual logic, and we placed it against the causal rationality, and we have seen how managers behave different when compared to the entrepreneurs. We have explored the decision making in general, how causal rationality affects the managerial decision making process. The managers, they have predetermined goals as well as a given set of means. By using those predetermined goals as well as the given set of means, they try to achieve the results in fastest, cheapest, and the most efficient way. This is how they frame alternatives, and this is how they achieve their objectives when compared to managers who are most of the time facing the dilemmas of make versus buy decisions in productions, choosing the target markets with the highest potential return in marketing, picking up a portfolio with the lowest risk in finance, or hiring the best person for the job in human resource departments. They all use causal rationality. When compared to the managers, the entrepreneurs, they deploy a different thinking pattern. They have a limited set of means. Their goal is not very clear in the beginning. Their goal is dynamic, it is fluid, it keeps evolving as their pursuit keeps on going. Time and imagination of the founders and their diverse interaction with multiple stakeholders is what determine the goals that they achieve at the end of their journey. Then we have also seen that how managers behave like recipe cooks and entrepreneurs, they are non-recipe cooks or no recipe cooks. We have seen the three principles of entrepreneurial mindsets, that how the effectual logic is actually applied. So these were affordable loss principle, building of the strategic partnerships, and leveraging of the contingencies. So we made a comparison how managers shall approach when compared to the entrepreneurial thinking. This is what we have already done. In our today's session, what we are going to look into are the early startups. As we all know that startups, they are islands of success in the sea of failure. If this is the case, then we need to see how the failure should be analyzed through pain and gain theory, and we will put the Apple as a case study, how Apple achieved the competitive advantage in whatever industry they go. We shall try and understand the importance of analogs and antilogs. So the importance of analogs and antilogs, the pain and gain theory. What should be the focus? Should we be focused on building a product, or we should solve a problem? We need to put up a mechanism or a framework through which we need to analyze that what problems are to be solved and what are to be ignored for the time being. When is the right time to solve a specific or particular problem? So we shall look into the problem analysis and solution qualification steps. And then what problems are to be solved to build a great company. We need to know that the migraine level problem or the coronavirus level problem, if a young entrepreneur is able to solve a migraine level problem or a coronavirus level problem, the company is successful overnight. So what is more important, we have to see that the question that is generally asked, that is every other startup a success story? This is the question. When the entrepreneurs, they imagine the success, sometimes the imagination takes them to a point that every company is another Google or every company is another eBay, whereas this is not the case. Google and eBay, they are the island of success in the sea of startup failures. Webvan, that was another online grocer, they burned around 1 billion before they actually closed. So when we see Google and eBay as success stories, because they were ordinary startups turned on to multi-billion companies, we also need to keep an eye on those companies who did not or could not succeed. Ventures come and go like the waves on the ocean. So what happened? These are the successful companies. How about these? What did these companies lack? What they lacked was a process and a framework. The components of process which they lack, that how to systematically stress test the plan A or street test your plan A. So you have put together a plan A, how you are going to test the plan A. What are the analogs, the antilogs, and how can you build the dashboard? How can you keep the track of your journey when you have started up building up a product? So analogs, they are the companies, they are the initiatives, they are the startups who did similar job which you are trying to do, and they were successful. And antilogs, they were the ones who tried to solve the same problem in the past, which you are trying to solve today, but they could not succeed. Dashboarding is going to help us that whatever we are testing, we need to do it in a very, very methodical and scientific way. So once that is done, that will help us when it is the right time to move away from the idea that we are pursuing and start pursuing another idea or start solving another problem. So where is the, it will actually help us gauge or help us to know that this is the right time to pivot, or should we keep following the idea, persevere. So perseverance or pivoting shall be decided on the basis of the dashboard that you build. All the plans that you will put together shall be tested and recorded, and this recording is the dashboarding. This dashboarding will be very key if we have to avoid the kind of failure which clickmango.com or the Webvan failure stories reveal to us. So these are the process related items. Then the framework. What are the elements of the framework that these two lack? They lack an appropriate revenue model, the gross margin model, operating cost model, working capital model, and investment model. Most of the time, we put all our money in one pocket and start spending. Everything is coming into one pocket and everything is going out of then one pocket. And when the startup starts growing, we lose the track. And it becomes really difficult that if we are heading towards a difficult situation and we have to cut some money spending, how can we do that? So these are some of the problems that these startups, not only these, most of the startups which fail, they do face issues like this. So most of the startups which face failure, they lack a process. They lack a framework. The process has some elements listed here, and the framework has some elements, they are listed here. What separates men from boys is the way they first plan. This is how we can differentiate the men from the boys. The question is, what makes the Body Shop an icon? What makes Starbucks a brand? And what makes Google a Google? It's not that they are simply selling the perfumes. They had a vision. The founder had a vision. They wanted to make cosmetics greener and socially more responsible. So there was a message. They wanted to solve a problem, because when we are trying to manufacture the cosmetics, we may damage the environment in the process. So making cosmetics greener and socially more responsible, Body Shop was trying to solve a problem. What Starbucks offered, it was not a coffee shop. It was not small retail shop selling bags of freshly ground coffee. This is not what makes Starbucks a household word. It is, they presented themselves to be a third place between office and home. What made Google Google was not simply an efficient or effective free search tool. This is not what made Google a verb. What made Google a verb was the better organization of the world's information. So there were problems. The information was not organized. All the search engines who are Google's predecessors, they were working, they were in operation, they were companies before Google. They could not solve the problem of the organization of the world's information. Google solved it. All these ordinary startups at the time of their origins, they became the companies because they did not lack that process and the framework. They did not stick to an idea and then try to prove that idea wrong or right. They continuously tried to smartly, a smart way, they continuously tried to test all their plans. Both Starbucks and Google, they are not plan A, they are the plan B. Entrepreneurs, they are job creators. They sustain economic development. The older firms, they lose jobs, whereas the new firms, the startups, they create jobs. Entrepreneurship, that provides an opportunity to become the master of your own destiny. So what happened, or why your plan A will not work? Statistics indicates that 1 out of 58 ideas, 1 out of 58 ideas, they deliver a successful product. It means 57 companies or 57 startups, they will simply remain in the dark. 1 out of 58 shall see the daylight. And the question is, why your plan A won't work? There are multiple reasons and factors that can affect the success of a startup or transforming a startup into a company. The solution you as an entrepreneur you are pursuing, maybe this is not what will be accepted by the customer or the users. If you are working in vacuum, if you are not interacting with the customers of the existing customer or the potential customer of your product, there is no way that you come to know what you should be building. You may be building an excellent product from your perspective, but if that product does not solve the customer's problem, this will be of no use. So the solution that you as an entrepreneur are pursuing, that solution may not be approved or accepted by the stakeholders. It may not be accepted by the customers. It may not be accepted by the policymakers. It may not be accepted by the users of that particular product. So why? So the chances of success, they are not that great if we keep applying the stereotypical thinking of building a company. If we do not have the process in place, if we do not have a framework in place, we may hit the wall like all those 57 companies. So the question is, why is the situation so grim? What customers shall buy? That is the heart of this course. That is what I was highlighting just a few minutes ago, that if you are building something which no one wants, if you have built something that does not solve a problem, if you have built something that is not approved by the policymakers, that is, you have just added some waste on the ground. So usually when we talk to the entrepreneurs, they have this phrase, we ran out of cash. That is a common cause stated against the failure. Now the question is, why do most of the business model not work? This is the problem. So they ran out of cash is again an effect. That is not the cause. The cause lies somewhere else. So the PayPal was not plan A, it was not plan B, it was plan G. And it earned the founders 1.5 billion US dollars when PayPal was sold to eBay or when eBay bought it. What we have to do? This is a combination of what it costs to invent, finance, produce, and deliver your dream. So it has got to be an optimal combination, because invention, financing, production, delivery of whatever you're thinking, that requires some money. So it is how it should go. So what we are going to do is, if we have to create a business model, many a time when interacting with the young entrepreneurs, they say that we are a very small company. We have just started. We are only few people. So why should we need a comprehensive business model? So that is usually the question. That creating a business model that works. Should we have a business model right from the beginning? The answer is yes. We have to create a business model that works. A business model is the pattern of economic activity. It keeps an eye on the cash flows, the cash flow in and cash flow out of your business for various purposes. So what we have to take care of is the timing of the cash flow. Whether or not you run out of the cash, it depends when are you receiving the cash and when you are spending the cash. Whether you are offering anything attractive to your investors or not. It's not about the contingency planning. What you have to do as a founder of a startup, you put only one plan on the table. Instead of juggling between multiple pieces, what you have to do, bring one piece, one plan on the table at a time. Devote all your skill, sources, and energies to rigorously street test your plan A. So whatever you have brought to the table, that is your plan A. What you are going to do is you need to put all your sources. There are multiple chances that you will not have infinite sources and energy as a young entrepreneur. You will have limited resources, but whatever you have, you need to put in to street test your plan A in a way that you should do it as quickly and as inexpensively as possible. So if you can recall to the three characteristics that we highlighted, that affordable loss principle. The affordable loss principle is that zero loss principle. You have to take your product to the nearest customer at almost zero cost. So you have put up a plan. Now you need to test that plan as quickly and as inexpensively as possible. And this has got to be not tested in one way. We have to test our plan at all critical points of vulnerability. Wherever do you think that the plan can go wrong, you need to test that plan. Once you are street testing your plan A, the process has started. Your business can be next PayPal or Google. This is the question. Can your business be the next Google? The answer is yes. It can be the next Google or PayPal. So if your plan has got to be developed as next Google or PayPal, the questions are what kind of skills you might produce, what you might be able to sell, and whatever you have produced, will your customers buy what you offer? Now, in order to address all these questions, we have to look into an iterative process. And the key building blocks of that iterative process, they are what you have to do is to mix and match the analogs, the antilogs, you have to identify the leaps of faith, and you have to dashboard as you go. So this process is listed in Randy Commissar's book, Getting to Your Plan B. So what you need to look into, you need to look into the analogs, the antilogs, you have to identify the leaps of faith, and then you have to dashboard as you are going. So when you are testing the leaps of faith, you are going to have some assumptions, and when the tests are made, those assumptions will either be proven right or wrong. You need to keep track of all the experiments that you are going to do in the way. When you are looking into the analogs and the antilogs, what you have to do to get to this solution, you should not start from the pre-stone ages. There is no point reinventing the wheel. What others have done, somewhat you are thinking doing now, no point reinventing the wheel if the key elements are existing. So it means that by developing a solution that is already working, or a solution that is resolving customers' pain or providing them the necessary gain, you will not be able to turn your product into a successful company. What you need is you need an idea that is different, that could be mix and match of the existing ideas. Now the question is, do you find anything common between Apple and Gillette? Primarily, there is common nothing. There are two products, two excellent products, both the Apple's product and Gillette Razor and Apple's iPod, for example. They are the products that solves totally different problems. Apple's iPod is for that's a music device, and Gillette, that is a personal, Gillette's Razor is a personal grooming device. There is nothing common. So that is where the innovation comes in. It's not only that you have to reinvent the wheel, and if you have to be an innovative, you have to be a creative of the type that starts from the Stone Ages and come to this wheel. That is not the case. You need to look for ideas. The best ideas are the ones who relieve some of your customers or potential customers' pain or problem, or give your potential customer some delight. So this is rubric number one. This is rubric number two. You are an entrepreneur. You are thinking of building up the next Google. Where to start? You have to start looking. If you, again, I will take you back in our lecture number 3, when we were looking into the strengths of the entrepreneur, the traits. They were who I am, what I know, and whom I know. You have to look around. You have to look within your immediate vicinity, that what are the problems prevailing around you, and how those problems are being solved, how painful are those problems, and what can you do to resolve the pain. Or another way is that how can you provide some delight to your customers. So there's nothing common between Apple and Gillette, but the Apple's iPod was inspired by Gillette's razor. Apple did not invent the technology. They were not the ones who invented the portable music. The idea of portable music was pre-Apple idea. It was Sony's Walkman. You can find this detailed case study in one of my other lectures, where I compared that how Apple got inspired by the business model of Gillette and the Sony's Walkman. Primarily, Sony's Walkman, that was portable music. The idea of portable music was Sony's idea. But for Apple, it became an analog first, and then it became an analog. Because in Sony's case, Sony was only selling their Walkmans. Apple sold the equivalent of Sony's Walkman, that was their iPod, plus they sold the songs, which were the cassettes. So just like Gillette, who not only sell their handles, they sell their blade as well. Once you have bought the Gillette's handle, you cannot put any other blade into it. You have to go back to the Gillette's blade and buy that. What you have to do, you have to be different. The predecessor companies compared to which you want to do things differently. What they did has been unsuccessful. This is what you have to see. When you are doing the analysis of the analog and the antilog, keep an eye on the antilogs. Special consideration, well, you should be inspired by the analogs, but the analogs are the success. And a lot of information is buried under the weight of success. Whereas if you look at the failures, From the dust of failure, you can find the jewel of advice. As an entrepreneur, you can learn the lessons and you can avoid the pitfalls. You can avoid those common mistakes that your antilogues have made that ruin their idea or their product. So what the third element is leaps of faith. Once you have started the process, you start with the analogs. You see who are the companies which are working to solve the problem which you are trying to solve. They are your analogs. Then you see that who are the companies who try to solve the problem which you are trying to solve now. They have already attempted to solve the problem, but they were failures. Analyze their failure, keep an eye on their failure. But what's beyond that? Once you have looked into the analogs and antilogs of your potential product, where you go from there? Now you are stuck. When you are stuck, then it's a time to make some assumptions, some leaps of faith. You need to ask right questions. Are you ready? Not yet. What you have to do, identify the questions raised by your analogs and antilog. Test your leaps of faith with an experiment. You can do different experiments to test your hypothesis. Your experiments can either prove your hypothesis or refute it. Experiments to test these hypotheses, they are not random. You have to plan those experiments. Who are the people you are going to ask those questions when you are? Who are the people who are going to be the part of this experiment? Who are the people who are going to provide you the feedback when you are trying to test your leaps of faith? So when you have done or when you are doing your leaps of faith, the fourth element of your process is the dashboard. It's not that as the process of testing your leap faith is not random. You need to keep recording that what leaps of faith were refuted and what were approved. So you need to adopt a structured, disciplined, and systematic way to guide your set of experiments. This dashboard is or will be a tool that shall derive an evidence-based process to plan and track the results of what you from your hypothesis. You're from an hypothesis up to the actual experiment. This structured and disciplined way, this will guide you. It will provide you a metric, and that metric has got to be a tangible and measurable. The metric, it should not be a vanity metric. It should not, the numbers which you are compiling as a result of testing your leaps of faith, they should not misguide you. They should not detract you. It should be constructed in such a way that the matrix which you are applying, those matrix should be tangible and measurable evidence to decide if the leaps of faith are established or refuted. Now the question is, how will you know that if it is time to move to plan B? The answer is the dashboard. Otherwise, you will keep working on your product. You will try to shine it, you will try to change it, you will try to make it as best as you think. But the problem is, it is not you who is going to be the ultimate user of the product you are developing. It is someone else. So with the help of those someone else, you have tested your leaps of faith, you have built your dashboards. If most of your leaps of faith are refuted, that is the point that it is time to move to your plan B. It forces you to think strategically about the question on the table. And by the way, we were just at one point of time, we are only testing one idea and we are doing it in an inexpensive and quick way. Now the question is, why would not this work? That is the question. You should be asking this question all the time. The dashboards, they force you to think rigorously. The results can be measured quantitatively. Numbers are more persuasive than the naive hopes and dreams. Refuting one or more leaps of faith, it indicates that it is time to move to plan B. So the dashboards, they are a powerful tool for convincing others. Not only that it will help you to pivot, to move or to adopt a different strategy, a different product, a different customer segment. Sometimes within the same product, you have to zoom in, and one feature in a whole product is another product. And at some other time, you may have to combine multiple features to or multiple products to make it a new product. So this is a powerful tool to convince, to help yourself as well as to convince others. You are listening to what data tells you. You are not being erratic and flighty. So this is the strength of using the dashboard. So these are the 4 steps, if I can recall them. So whenever you are looking to set up a startup, you must put this process in place. Your study should let you know that what are the analogs, the antilogs, and then the analysis of the antilogs and the analogs shall bring you to a point where you can build the leaps of faith. And the dashboard, they are going to keep the track of your journey. They are your guide. If you are flying, if your startup is like an aeroplane, whatever is in front of the pilot, that is the dashboard. All the time, you know how far you are from your destination, what is the altitude, the temperature outside, the wind speed, your speed, and your equivalent speed to the ground, the humidity, all that stuff. Similarly, building the dashboards for your startups can help you cut the long journey short. You can avoid many common pitfalls that ruin otherwise great ideas. After the process, we need, once we have the plan A, which is being street tested, we need a framework to organize the content. What does that framework involve? As we had the 4 elements to our process, the analogs, antilogs, leaps of faith, and the dashboard, our framework involves 5 elements. It is our revenue model. The revenue model will answer all these questions. Whatever you are building, you need customers. No company, no business can survive if it does not have customers. Now you need to ask yourself who will buy, how often they will buy, how soon they will buy, and at what cost they shall buy. How much money you will receive each time a customer buys. How often they will send you another check or money. The second element is the gross margin model. The gross margin model shall ask how much of your revenue will be left after you have paid the direct costs of what you have sold. So there are 2 types of cost, the direct cost and the indirect cost. In gross margin model, we need to know that if we have paid all the direct costs of what we have sold to the customer, how much money or revenue is left. The operating model, other than the cost of your goods or services you have sold, what else must be spent to support the sale? So we have the cost of producing the goods and services. There may be some other cost, the indirect cost. The operating model is going to look into it. And then the working capital model, how early you can encourage your customers to pay. Can you pay your suppliers later after a customer have paid you? This is another business model where you have got the cash, you have done some advance booking, for example. So you have got the money from your customers, but your suppliers, they will be paid later. So it means that you get some time to retain and invest and use that cash. That is the working capital model. Do you have to tie up your money in lots of inventory waiting for customer to buy? Sometimes we produce the finished goods which are lying in our yards, in our inventory, in our stores. The finished products, when they are waiting to be sold, they are equally not good. When they're still inventory, they're just like raw material, because you have spent your money to produce an item, and that cash is trapped. That the customer is still not there. If the customer is not in the picture, if the customer haven't paid you for the product that you have produced, anytime that product is lying in the queue for being sold, or it is waiting in your store to be shipped somewhere, it is a waste that needs to be looked into. So our working model shall look into this. Then is the investment model. How much cash must you spend upfront before enough customers give you enough business to cover your operating costs? Whatever is the operating cost, you are going to recover it by selling your goods or services. But before they have paid you anything, how much cash you must spend upfront. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 elements of the framework. So this is what the clickmangoes.com, as well as the webvan, the failure analysis that we have gone through in the beginning, they missed these elements. They didn't have the framework. They didn't have their process in place. So this is the summary of what we have covered. So in our lecture 3, we have seen 2 things: the process as well as the framework. The process had 4 elements: the analogs, they were the companies, the startups, the ideas who are similar to your idea, or your idea is similar to their idea. It is just a matter of different time frame, maybe, that you are trying to solve a similar problem which those companies did and they successfully solved in their time. They are your analogs. Then some of the companies, startups, and ideas who tried to solve the similar problem, but they could not solve it. They were failures. They are your antilogs. Study the analogs and the antilogs, and based on that study, you have to frame the questions, the hypothesis called leaps of faith. Then you have to design experiments, not random experiments, experiments designed in a methodical way, and you have to record the tests of the results of those the testing. Whatever you have tested, that must be recorded, and you have to build the dashboard. That dashboard will be your guide. It will help you keep tracking your progress. Once you have tracked your progress, you come to know that when it is the time to leave plan A and go to your plan B. So this is the process. The second element we discussed today was the framework. The framework had 5 elements. These are the revenue model, the gross margin model, operating model, working capital model, and investment model. Every element in the framework, they are supposed to ask different questions, and you need to answer all those different questions. When this process and this framework, they are put together, it becomes really easy for you to steer your progress, to get to know that when is the time to change your plan A to plan B. So with this, we bring this session to an end. See you next week. Bye.